Hello, good morning.
Good morning. And I have to say, loving your glasses. They look fun.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. They're new. I combed the racks looking for something that wasn't black, and I found this pink pair, and I was like, okay, even if they look terrible, I'm buying them.
I think
Because
they look good. So,
okay, well, thank you. Thank you.
and I'm a connoisseur of glasses.
Are you? How many pairs do you have?
So I have these fancy ones that have the like tops that come off and on.
Oh, you got those ones. I see those on social media all the time. How are they?
I love them. So I have this
No.
base and I have another base. So
Uh-huh.
have, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 pairs of the tops.
That is so clever because my glasses are so expensive. Like by the
Right?
time they calculate them all up, I can't, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can stretch to two pairs. But
Right?
yeah, you have to, and then you have to totally love them when you get them, and then you get sick of them. But so your strategy makes complete sense.
I love them. If anybody wants them, make sure that you put a comment and I will give you my code so that we can each get $25 off
Oh, that's so
because I like
smart.
having $25 off too.
That is so smart. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to seeing the link.
I have some new ones coming tomorrow for Halloween.
Oh, do you? That's so funny.
So yes, I will try my best to remember to put the link in the show notes, but let's all be real, guys. I'm forgetful. So if I do forget and somebody wants it, throw a comment. I read them. It's cool. So anyways, see, first we talk about cats for a while, and then we
Oh
talk
my
about
God.
glasses for a while. Eventually we do get to the show. We do eventually. Um, tell us a little bit about who Candace Macphie is.
Well, I obviously have a cat and glasses to start with. Yeah, so I live in Calgary, Alberta, right next to the beautiful Rocky Mountains. Get to see those every morning, and they take my breath away every time I do see them. They are a sight to behold, and they never get old. So that's something to be said. So if you're ever thinking of a trip, it's totally worth it. It's beautiful
Oh,
here.
excellent. Yeah, don't come to the falls. It's boring. Go there.
Yeah, the mountains, they just don't disappoint. They every day it's different with the clouds. And anyways, I could go on for ages. That's not about me. Um, yeah, so I have three kids, and I worked for a long time in an office and enjoyed it. It was great. I loved it. I had a great team. I worked with great people. I, was always given some interesting opportunities to do cool stuff. Uh, but it sort of, I don't know what was my main shift was, actually from a mental health perspective, was the work I was doing was quite taxing. We were doing a lot of
Mm.
layoffs. We were working on a merger. We were working on a whole culture shift, which changes the whole idea of, or like the whole comfort level of the employees at the company.
Yeah.
And I would get into an elevator and people would stop talking,
Aw.
and it was tough. It was a lot of days where I remember one day in particular, we were taking a taxi. I was taking a taxi and this was super early, and coming over, and there was this gorgeous sunrise, and the taxi driver, I said, "Wow," and she goes, "Oh yeah, that's God's gift or something," and I went, oh, I just started to cry because it was so much, like, in terms of what we were doing and what was happening. And I think that was one side, and the other side was my kids were growing up so fast. I would get home from work and have an hour with them, but I was still so frustrated after being at work all day, and I just didn't have the energy that I wanted to give them. And I just thought, I didn't raise kids not to be present in their life. So I left my job. Um, it was a change for everybody, and for
Yeah.
myself and for my family, and just readjusting, getting to know each other again in a different way, and that's when I started writing, and it
Nice.
was this wonderful, wonderful time of reflection and just healing from the work, healing from just not being around my family and just getting lost in learning how to write because I thought I knew how to write, but I didn't. And that's when I started writing and loved it. And I loved the journey. I was very good at my job, like very good at my job. And it had been a long time since I'd had some constructive feedback. And I got a lot of constructive feedback when I first started writing because I had a lot of areas of improvement. Let's put it that way, in a very nice way.
I think we
And
all do, right? We all do.
it was a very humbling journey. I enjoyed it, and it was healing in a lot of ways. So that's me. And now I write books and hang out with my kids, and I write when they're at school, and then I stop when they come home from school, and then when they go to their room and disappear and do their homework, I go back to writing. So I have this wonderful balance that I just never had before, and it's a real joy. So that's where I am.
That's fantastic. How old are they?
My kids, I
Yes.
have an 18-year-old girl who just went off to university. I had to drop her. It was terrible.
What is she
Uh,
taking? Sorry,
she's taking
side note.
no. She's taking sociology at the University of
Oh,
Alberta in Edmonton. So it's only a 3-hour drive away. Um, But first child, and your girl, who's always the
yep.
one there for, to chat and stuff. So that
Yeah.
was a tough loss. We really miss
Yeah.
her. And then I have a 17-year-old boy who's in grade 12, and then I have a 14-year-old girl in grade 9.
Wow. So you're
Hmm.
about to get rid of another baby.
I know. It was really great having them back to back and sort of getting that, out of the way, if you will. But now they're going to be gone at this, just bang bang. So I don't want to think about
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
Um,
no, no.
it's just I have a friend who, yeah, her second kid just went to
Oh,
university. He went to the States though. So her older one, she's just in Hamilton, right? So that's like 45 minutes from here. No
yeah,
biggie.
yeah, yeah.
But her son is a couple hours because he's across the border in the States. So she has one last baby left in high school, just got his license. So I want to say he's grade 11 now then. And
Hmm.
yep, it's
I don't
coming,
know.
it's crazy.
We make jokes to my youngest one. We go, if by chance my son's with his girlfriends or something, I would say, look, this will just be the three of us for a few years. And my little one's like cringing. She's like looking for her other people. Like, where's my deflectors? I don't need
Right?
full on parent attention. I'm good. So when you have three,
Right?
you're constantly like, no one gets all the attention. So I
Right?
think,
That's a good point. Yeah,
mhm.
so now, uh-oh, now she can't do anything troublesome. Not that she would.
No,
Just
no,
say
no,
it.
no, 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 no. She wouldn't dare.
No, no.
Hmm.
All right, so let's talk about what we're all here for, shall we? Let's
Hmm.
talk about some mental health stuff. So, um, obviously, you kind of gave us a little brief because I feel like this story is going to intertwine to what you already kind of told us a little bit. Um, talk to me about where whatever makes the most sense to start your story.
I think, it's funny. I think there's times where anyways, when I think about it, I think about TSN turning point. It sounds so ridiculous, but the turning point in your life, or the turning point, like either was really good or usually it's not really good, right? It's the
Right.
times where things are really tough and you're just like, okay, how, what now? Because I have to do something. And
Yeah.
that's where this whole journey, the first journey started, not my, kids and all of that. I was living in Toronto, and I had graduated from university, but it was a couple years after my mom died. My mom got sick when I was
Oh.
14, and she
Oh.
died when I was 22. So we we were all home. When I reflect upon it now, I think about if my mom were to die now, I would I would be super sad,
Mhm.
and I would miss her every day, like I still do.
Of
Uh,
course.
but I think it's different when an integral part of your unit dies. And you know what? Your unit is
Yes.
when you're that age, your unit is your mom and your dad and your brothers and sisters, right?
Yeah.
And then when you get married and you have your own kids, you have a new primary unit. Everyone else is still important, but your primary unit is your primary unit.
Exactly. Yes.
And so at the time when my mom died, she was my primary unit. She was my primary unit, and we were all there. And my brothers and my dad and I looked after her at home, gave her palliative care at home.
Yeah.
So it was pretty intense, right? And you I didn't have time to do get to know myself or get to know who I wanted to be.
Which is a
So
pretty big deal at that age, right? Like that is
yeah.
the time that you're trying to figure out who the heck you are. What do you want to be when you grow up and all that fun
Mhm.
stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's when and I don't expect anyone at 22 or 23 to know, like, okay, you might have some ideas, but okay, good.
Yeah.
That's great. But even I didn't have hobbies. I didn't have, I had some friends who were great, but I wasn't able to do much else because as a caregiver, that's, what you're doing.
Yeah.
There's no space for other things.
Exactly.
And so after she died, I moved to Toronto and got a job, and I just fell into this, just slipped deeper every day into this real just swirl of just effort. It was like walking through sludge every day,
Oh.
just trying to figure out life. And just I plugged in the things that I thought, job, you know
Yeah.
go to the gym, see friends, but none of it was enough because I spent so much time looking after my mom that I
Mhm.
still had this big gap in my life. And that's and I met this doctor. So the person that changed everything for me was I went to the doctor. And back then, which was, this is almost historical fiction now, talking about the 90s. I know. They didn't just whip out a script, right? She looked at me and she drew two circles on a paper, and she said, "Tell me about your life before your mom died." And I said, well, one third of it was sleep, one third of it was work and friends, and one third of it was looking after my mom. And then
Yeah.
I went to after, one third of it was sleep, one third of it was work and friends, and one third was still empty. And when I realized that I still had a third of my life that I wasn't filling, that's where I went, okay, so right. Well, I'm like, yeah, it makes logical sense why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. Also, I'm
Yeah.
grieving, but I didn't know what to do. I didn't know. I said, "How do I feel that?" And she goes, "Well, that's what you need to figure out." And I was like, "Ooh, okay." And I that's where the work started, And so I
Yeah.
slipped for so long, and then once I had that moment, that TSN turning point, that moment where I realized, okay, there's all this space and I'm not doing anything, and I don't even know what I like to do. I like my job, but do I like my life? No. Do I find it inspiring? No. Is,
Where did you live before you moved to Toronto?
I grew up in Montreal, so
So
born and
Montreal's a pretty
raised.
big city too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I think the thing was that I didn't want to stay in Montreal. There was too many, it was too heavy. It was too many memories, every
Yeah, yeah.
street, every, it was just all there, right?
For sure. I
And
was just wondering if it was like small to big, but Montreal's big.
no, it wasn't small to big. It was just this undealt with and unrecognized until that point
Yeah.
problem that I had. And I didn't recognize the problem. I didn't deal with the problem. I thought that moving away was going to help me grieve.
Yeah.
And I thought something new was going to help me grieve. I thought that a space, but it's a good start for
Yeah,
sure. But
yeah.
it wasn't. it wasn't enough because I wasn't dealing with it. I had just moved my problems with me. So,
Yeah,
um,
and I think actually that's a really good point. Sometimes people think, okay, fresh start, which can work.
mhm,
I'm not saying
mhm.
that it can't. Um, but my brother tried that. And so for those who are new to the channel, my brother died a few years ago from a drug overdose. And at one point, I want to say he's probably in his late 20s. He
Mm,
died in 37. I want to say when he was
mm,
37. Um, so in his late 20s ish, I'm going to move out west. I'm going to move out west, fresh start.
yeah,
I don't know anybody. How can I possibly get drugs if I don't know anybody? The problem is, though, what you just said, your problems follow you. The
mhm,
trauma follows you. The addiction follows you, whatever it comes with you. So, unless you're willing to do the hard work
yeah,
and pretty much therapy, like the hard work, right? Unless you're
yeah,
willing to do that, your problems are going to come with you. And so of course that move did not work for him because he just found the same type of people in the same situation. So I think he only lasted there 3 to 6 months, something like that.
I'm so
And
sorry.
then
Yeah,
he was back here again because just moving doesn't fix the problem. And I
yeah,
think that's such an important point to drive home is that yes, a fresh start can be good, but a
yeah,
fresh start also equals doing that hard work.
yes, yes, yes. And that's what I didn't do. And it's it was easy just to plug and play, in a different situation, but like your brother did, just fill your life with the same things in a different place.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, so that was my turning point, and I'm sorry that it, it's such a personal journey too, right?
Oh, for sure.
And everybody deals with it differently. At that point, I think when someone's in that point, I felt that once for me as a person, I knew once I knew what the problem was, I'm a planner. So I thought, okay, I can put together 20 million plans in terms of how to deal with this.
Yes.
And I think just the sheer desire and the sheer I just hated my life. I thought, my God, I'm 25 years old, but I might as well be 80 with the way I live. Like I bake muffins and put them in the freezer and eat them throughout the week. Like now that sounds perfect, right? In terms of my life now, but at
Right,
the
but
point
in your 20,
yeah,
yeah.
I shouldn't be living this real sort of, draggy life, but I didn't know how to live a different way. And that's when I just said, okay, I'm going to go on a holiday and I'm going to take a 3 week holiday. And I'm going to go to Greece and I'm just gonna put it all out there and just go have
Yeah.
fun. And I took a backpack and a travel guide, and I left. And on that trip, I met someone who who spoke to me differently. And he was traveling for 2 years around the world, having
Wow.
doing all the things I wanted to do. And I thought, oh my God, this is everything I want to do. And he just looks at me and goes, well, why aren't you doing it? And I said, well, I have a
Easier said than
car.
done.
I have a car, I have an apartment, I have a job. And he said, so, and I went, oh my God, I really don't have anything tying me down. Like I'm just using all of these excuses for a
That's why it feels
reason.
like I've already talked to you because I read your book.
Oh.
I'm sitting here going, I don't think you've been on the show. I don't remember talking to you. Oh,
You've read my book.
yes, the first one. The first one. Mickey sent it to me. Okay, okay. Keep going. Keep going.
Okay, okay, okay. So he kind of inspired me to make a change, and I think I felt too old. I felt too tired. I thought, this is something someone does when they're 18 or 19, not when you're 25. You should be working, you should have a job, it's not very responsible to do this. And then I thought, oh my God, it's either throw responsibility out the window or I end up living this like horribly old life and sort of, just sort of inching through it. And I thought, no way. My mom fought too hard to live for me to sort of
Yes.
do this sort of half-ass job to approach to life. So, and that's when I left, and that's where I I backpacked around the world for over a year, and I used that time. And when you talked about therapy and when we talked about going to a different place, I did the same thing again. I went to a different place, but what I did differently was I had the space and the time to reflect, to think about it.
Mm.
And my therapy was the people that I met, the experiences that I had, and I always had time to reflect. In our life, we're so busy, right? We run from
Right? Yeah.
one thing to the next thing. You get up in the morning and you look at your schedule and you say, okay, where am I getting, what have I got to do? Okay, what time do I have to
Yes.
leave to get there on time? And you work backwards. Okay, everyone, we need to leave the house at this time. Okay, have you packed
Yeah.
snacks? Like there's always busy times, right? But there's no, and that 15-minute window of driving is when I, you know, and
Yeah.
it is the one time where I can just take a breath. But there's not enough of those times in the day. And when you
Right? Yes.
are doing a trip like this, there's a lot of times like that. You're on the train for 7 hours, 8 hours. There's a
Yeah.
lot of space in your day, um, where you have time to. I wrote journals. I filled pages and pages and pages of
And
journals.
this was in the 90s.
Yes, yes,
So
yes,
you're
yes.
not sitting there playing on your phone with data. Like
Nope.
that's not a thing. Just to
No.
put this in perspective for the youngins in the group.
Yes,
Um
please do.
right? You didn't have a smartphone,
No,
right? Like that wasn't a thing. If you wanted to listen to music, you had a Walkman. Like
I
that's
did
what you
have a
had.
Walkman.
Yeah, so you had
Hmm.
to bring that with you. You couldn't just be like, "Huh, I want a new book, download." Like that didn't exist.
No.
S- And communicating with your family back in Canada, it wasn't as simple as again having the phone and just sending a quick email. Like that wasn't there. So
No.
when you're talking about now you have the time to reflect, as much as I do enjoy my smartphone, I do
Yes.
enjoy. I just got a fancy new watch, right?
Oh,
It's
very nice.
right. It's fun, it can remind me of things. But again, then it's keeping you so okay. What's next? I have to do this, and time to breathe doesn't exist as much as
No.
it did when those things didn't exist. When you are forced into the position of 7 hours of, I guess I'll either read this book I brought with me or
Mm-hmm.
I will journal or
Mm-hmm.
nap. I enjoy napping, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you didn't have all of this other extra stuff. So
No.
just to put that into perspective for everyone.
And it's amazing how different it is, and how you have to fill your time differently, whether it's like you said, or just add the conversations in there. And when you are living out of a bag, right, one bag on your back, and the
Yes.
people that you meet are your lifelines because you can't talk to anybody at home, you build these connections quickly, and you really, you quickly understand as well if someone is going to be your person or not. Some people
Yes.
you're like, okay, well, after this train ride, I'm going to stay at a different place and I'll never see you again.
Right.
Or
It was
you are
nice chatting, but bye.
yeah, yeah, or you are someone I'm going to know for the rest of my life. So there's you form these connections, and it was through these connections and these conversations and this time where
Mhm.
I was able to completely disconnect, which is such a gift that we just don't have now. I don't know if I can't remember a holiday where I went on where I didn't have my, all of my books on my Kindle
Right,
or my
exactly.
phone or have my laptop. I don't, I don't go anywhere without my laptop.
Yeah.
So it's just such a different, like a pen and a paper. And, I wrote letters and postcards, and I wanted to share, like that was how I shared
Yeah.
where I was. And it was through that I healed. And I still, like, there's still days when I wake up and think about her, and I'm sad about missing her. But it was work. It was work. I put work in, and it took time, And yeah, it was a long, because when you think about it, it was a third of my life at that point where I had been a caregiver for someone. And that's a lot, right? It's a lot of
Mhm.
time. And
Right.
and
Exactly.
being able to sort of take that experience for what it was, and you know, fill your life with something new without feeling guilty,
Mhm.
um, because there's a lot of guilt too, in terms of, here I am doing these things.
That's
And
a really awesome point. So more recently, and I have not talked about this very much on the show. I very briefly said things, but I'm getting to the point that I can share now. Last month my little sister died.
oh,
Um yeah. And something that my other sister, so I have one sister left, um, was saying to me is, you know, I'll be doing something and it's fun, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm having fun, but Jen's not here.
mm,
And it's that, yeah. So guilt is a very big part of the grieving process. Um, and it's just funny that you mentioned it because, yeah, my sister was just saying that to me last week. And I'm like, yeah, which is why I'm completely redoing my bedroom right now, because the other way of dealing with grief is avoiding thinking about it, which I'm really good at.
yes, yes. I remember painting a very ugly chest after my mom died. She died, and I sat in the garage and painted this chest for, it was so ugly. It was so ugly. And I am not a painter, and I'm not a crafter. I am not the person you want, making art for you. That is not the thing to do. But it was something I could do with my hands, something tangible I could see.
Right?
And
Yes.
it occupied, was busy work, but not taxing. And
Exactly.
it was something that it was all I had the space for. I didn't have the mental capacity to have big, deep, and meaningfuls. I didn't have the mental capacity to invite someone into how I was feeling at that point.
Yes.
But I did have the physical ability to do something.
Exactly. And that is why I now have a mint green room with an accent wall of lavender.
Well, you know what? That's also was always my favorite color growing up, mint green. So well
Well, there
done.
you go. It looks
Mhm.
fabulous. It really does. And I'm gonna get a couple little different shelves for my stuffed animals and stuff. Because yeah, I would having something else to either occupy the mind, or while you're doing it, you're forced, just like those train rides, right? You're forced into some either self-reflection or just a moment of peace, a moment of
Mhm.
quiet with yourself. So that
Mhm.
is because I'm not quite finished in my room. I have finished painting, but
Yeah.
that's an important part. And actually, it's funny that you're talking about loss and grief and stuff on this episode, because this past weekend on the other show that my friend and I host, where we talk of, so everybody, Bedlam Beyond Mental Illness, the history of things. She did the research and she chose grief counseling. So how crazy is it that today's episode we are talking about grief?
Yeah. Yeah. I it's I'm very sorry for your loss, and I know it's not enough, and I know it all it did for me was stir emotions, but I'm sorry.
Thank you. Um, but we're not going to think about it right now, or we'll cry. So,
Okay.
back to your story.
Okay, back to my story, back to the train rides. What do you
Back
need
to the train
next?
rides.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
Um, so one thing that I when I was reading your book, and I was like, if I ever talk to her, I need to yell at her, not in a mean way. Well, maybe in a mean way. That one guy. Oh my gosh. I was reading it. I'm going, red flag, red flag. Stop it. Can we briefly discuss maybe a little bit about toxic relationships?
Yes, yes. Well, so yes, we can, because when you're not in the best place, you are ripe for a toxic relationship, right? When you are not feeling 100% yourself, or whatever your driver was to get you to that place, when you're not feeling confident, when you don't know who you are, when you don't know what you want from your life, finding someone when this toxic person um, inspired me to change my life. He gave me just enough to keep me hanging on in
I
terms
have to
of,
say, at the beginning when he first appeared in the book, or I guess in your life because it is your story, but when he
yeah.
appeared in the book, I went, "Oh, cool." And then yeah, and that is a lot what happens with toxic relationships, right? The person is, "Oh wow, they're amazing, they're wonderful." But then,
hmm But then, wait, but wait,
oh wait,
yeah,
but wait, there's more.
there's more. Wait, but wait. So yeah, and did I stay too long? Yes. But I it's kind of like painting your room. I wasn't ready for more. I had an option for more, right? I had this
Yes.
wonderful other person who offered me kindness and who offered me, a safe space and a wonderful, embrace, and just to say, come, and I could have chosen a path and said, okay, I'm just going to move to Cambridge and go live with this great guy, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
but I didn't need that. I wasn't ready for comfortable. I needed the wrong thing. I never experienced the wrong thing. I had, I had, all those years where you should be doing silly things, I was looking
Taking
after
care.
my mom. So
Yeah.
I didn't have that chance to have the silly relationships and make those dumb choices. And I wasn't I wasn't ready. And I guess for me, I was happy that I knew I wasn't ready for like something good. I wasn't ready for something good. I needed bad things to sort of stir up. And I don't know. Um, there was what I got from him was enough for for at the time, right? And
Yeah.
he wasn't the right person. And deep down I knew that, and he wasn't very nice, but I had a lot of other things going on in my life that I
Yes.
was okay with it. And yes, total red flag. He was a million red flags. But
Yes.
he was so good at, in those moments when I needed what I needed, he gave me exactly what I needed. And
Yes.
but the periphery treatment was not great. And
Yes.
I didn't care. I just didn't care. And I thought when I was writing it, it was so cringeworthy. Honestly, I thought I wanted to punch myself. I was so angry with the fact
Oh,
that I did that. But I thought, if I change this, and if I sugarcoat this, or if I make myself sound less lame, because I was thought it was pretty lame too, um, then it's not true, because as part of the process, I think it's really something to think that when you're
yes.
not yourself, you're open to a whole bunch of things that aren't right for you, and you put up with a lot of different stuff. Then when you're
Yes.
feeling strong, and when you're feeling um, confident with yourself, and you know what you want, you wouldn't put up with that, right? You'd be
No,
like, yeah,
exactly.
you're
And I
out.
also think it's important to note that, even though you had this bad relationship,
Hmm.
um, you like you said, you had other things going on, but look at you now, right? You don't have to stay in that toxic environment. And that's part of the problem that, I've talked to some people is, oh, I stayed with him for so long before I finally was able to break free. So
Hmm.
I just want people to know that even if that person seems like they're fantastic when you're with them, but
Hmm.
there's red flags. Trust your gut. Hopefully your gut is telling you the right thing. Um,
Yeah.
and or listen to friends. Sometimes your friends can point stuff out, but there's just, you don't need to be with someone who is not going to be fully present for you, for those
And
still struggling.
I think it is so It is so easy to get trapped, right? It is so
Yes.
easy just to say it's enough. It's so easy to, it's not, it's, it's, you could just say, okay, I'm gonna, it's all right. Because like I said to you, I just made a million excuses why I stayed with that guy,
Yeah.
right? I just made them all, and I'm
Yeah.
still perfectly fine with it. It's only upon reflection that I look back and go, well, that was really dumb. And wow,
Yeah.
that is, but I wrote it.
Hindsight's 2020, right? Like that's what.
Yeah, I wrote it in such a way that I wanted people to realize that, yeah, this is like, I wanted you to see it, that it was
Yeah.
toxic. I wanted you, I gave you all the examples that showed all the things that he did that were horrible to me,
Yes.
and tried to put you in my shoes in terms of my reaction, and try to be there to you. But, and then you're thinking, why aren't you leaving? Right? It's
Yes.
so easy to say, why aren't you leaving? And I didn't leave. I didn't want to leave. That
Yeah.
was the thing. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to not be with him. He he changed things for me when I needed him. He was the one person who said to me, if you don't have to live the way you're living. No one else
Mhm.
had said that to me. He brought something to my life that nobody else did, and I was not
Yes.
ready to let go of that.
Yeah.
And I I'm like, I'm not letting go of this. I am clinging to this until it's done. And
Mhm.
I it was my first lifeline when I was feeling I was so low. He was the first person that gave me the first rung on the ladder to get out of the pit.
Right?
And
Yeah, he
he
had a
was,
good quality, that you needed, and then we needed to say goodbye.
yeah, we did. But I think in terms of when you think about folks in a toxic relationship, I just think that they're giving you something that nobody else is giving you, right? And it's very hard to let go of that. And you might know it's wrong for you, or you might not know it's wrong for you. You might never have been treated better than that person who's treating you, so you don't know that there's different. But I think for me, it was as I got to know myself, um, and as I got to know what I wanted, it became clearer. Also, he kind of exited before I could, so that made my life easier.
Right? Thank
Um,
goodness. Goodbye.
yeah, yeah. So, but I think I wouldn't underestimate the power that someone has over you when they introduce something to your life that you didn't have and that you wanted.
Mhm.
And leaving that is very difficult. And I could appreciate that it takes folks some time to, um, because there's two sides, right? They're awful to you, and then they're so nice to you, and it's those moments that you cling to, and being just it just going through that until you get to whatever your point is
Yeah.
that makes you change, that makes you want to exit.
Exactly. Yes. So what would you say to somebody right now that is so your piece of wisdom for somebody who is struggling with a loss of a chunk of their life?
Yeah, so you've lost something. I would say, well, I'll tell you what I did, and I don't know if this is everybody's answer. I tried different stuff, and I forced myself. I literally picked up the brochure for the, whether the community center, and tried Tai Chi and like all this stuff, and just thought,
Oh,
I don't know what I like to do. So figuring out what you like to do was the hardest part. So I had to put myself out there and try things. And that was so hard when you're in such a bad place, and just showing up somewhere new, and just putting yourself out there is the difficult part. Um,
yes.
that was the first step. The second step was the space. Now, whether it's through therapy, like you said, or just space, having time that you're not watching TV or TikTok or whatever. And
Yep.
journaling was a big healing part of my journey. Time to reflect was part of my journey. And talking to people. So whether it's therapy, but for me, it was people that I met. And because of the unique situation I was in, you form these connections and you're able to have different types of conversations that I wouldn't have been able to have with people at home. So it was like therapy in its sort of informality, and maybe not getting the best advice all the time, but I got lucky
Yeah.
with the people I was with, and
Good.
that helped me. And time on its own, and moving to a new location wasn't enough. It was the combination of all of them. But until I really dug down into um, what, like, I had to deal with my grief, and then I had to figure out what I wanted to fill my space with. And if you fill your space with a bunch of
Yes.
crap, like TikTok or TV or whatever, it's just as empty as if you didn't fill the space. So filling the space was something that I found rewarding, and
Yes.
filling the space, and that took time to understand what it was that I liked, because I didn't know what I liked. So filling the space with things that I liked, and that was where the work was for me, was what did I like, because I didn't know.
I think that's such an important thing that you just said right there. Finding what you like because you didn't know. It sounds so, honestly, it sounds so stupid, right? How do you not know what you like, right? Like, come on. But when you are so enraptured in taking care of someone else, and it happened at a young age, which we've already discussed is the time when you're figuring out all those things that you like.
Mhm.
Yeah, you didn't have that opportunity to do so. So you had to do it at a later age. But it
Mhm.
just seems like something that we take for granted that in your
Mhm.
20s, you just know what you like.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
no,
No.
right? So I think, yeah, I think that point is riveting actually, because I think we take things for granted way too much.
Yeah. Yeah. And fill our life with crap, right? And
Oh,
there's so much
yes.
crap we can fill our life with right now. It's,
Yes.
like, I looked at my kids during COVID, and they were all struggling, because all they were doing was sitting there watching stupid videos in their rooms, and I was trying to get them to come out and play board games or do anything interactive.
Right? Yes.
But it was really difficult for them because of the age they were at the time, and so impressionable, and just
Yeah.
judging themselves against other folks, and it was probably quite toxic for a lot of people. And and then
Yes.
and then relearning after, okay, I have to go back out. I've got to go meet someone for coffee, like physically. Like, how does that even work?
Right? Yes.
So, and we relied so much on our technology to communicate then. And then when it came back to communicating without technology, it's weird. How many times do you take your phone out and put it on the table? Like, what
Yeah,
matters,
why does it need to be there?
You're
We
talking to
do it.
someone. Yeah, everybody does it, right? And
Yep.
before, you'd have a camera or, something, but no, so many excuses why you could have it. Well, in case I want to take a picture. Okay, well, that'll be important. I don't know. It's just, anyway, I try to just cut off when I can.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's definitely tough in this day and age.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, all right. So thank you for sharing all of that. And yes, it's just my aha moment of, oh yeah, you're that author. It was just so funny. And I need to read the second half of your story, but Mickey hasn't sent that one to me yet. I'm sure he will
Hmm.
when the time is going to happen.
Hmm.
Um, so let's talk about the book. Let's talk about what
Okay.
you've written. Share.
Okay.
I know what you've written, but tell other people.
Yes. Yes. Well, the books, it's a 5-part series. I have these again with my learning journey, which was interesting. I thought this was one book, but when I got into it, and really what my goal was I wanted you to experience that awful relationship. I wanted you to experience the train journey. I wanted you to experience all the feelings that I had, and what it was like to be sweaty walking around Moscow. And
Well,
I
you seem
I wanted yeah, I wanted you to take that journey. In order for everybody to take that journey the way I wanted, it was a lot more words than one book. So I started to parse it out, and it became five, and that's a lot. But you know what? It's an easy read. I put it together. It's funny, it's cringy, it's sad. It helps you recover. I've had people come to me and say, you know, I read the first chapter of your book, and within 5 pages, you summarized exactly how I feel around loss. And the whole book isn't about loss, but it's what starts it, right? It was my
Yes.
TSN turning point. It was my kickoff. It was my sort of nudge to live something and do something that I wanted to do and always wanted to do. And in my mind was the pinnacle of all things that should be done. And what I do during the course of the series is bring you along and you experience the highs and the lows and the funny things. And you get
Yes.
to go to places all over the world. And you travel on trains and buses and taxis and meet crazy people and, you know, experience all these wonderful things and these coincidences and places and so that's what I wanted. I wanted to share this journey in a way um, that anyone could just sit down and appreciate and read and have a laugh and just enjoy the time.
And I definitely think that you succeeded in that because I enjoyed it. um,
Good.
and so everybody make sure that you go back, check out the blog post, the review of it, because then you'll actually see what I'm talking about. But I can say that I enjoyed it.
Good. 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 I'm glad. And so I'm just working on my third one now. That one takes place in Europe, and then the other in the first part, and then the other half is all the Middle East. So it's a
Okay.
whole getting into a whole new culture, a whole new mindset. It was an interesting just dump into that world because you had to think right back in the 90s, the historical 90s. Is
Oh,
I know
historical.
it's really it hurts, but it's true.
It's
Um,
my birthday next week, and I was
okay.
born in the 80s. So
I know, it's crazy, right? But back then, the only touch point we had with those faraway places was like National Geographic and Indiana Jones. So there wasn't
yeah.
a lot of visual representation from then because we didn't have the internet. Oh, and the encyclopedia collection.
Oh,
So
yes. We had, okay, off topic, sort of. We had the
go.
encyclopedia collection at my
I'm
house when we were growing
so
up.
jealous
So
we did
all
not.
of them,
I'm
we had
so
all of
jealous.
them. And I would sit there and read them and just like, oh, things A through B. Okay. I just sit and I
Right?
loved them. And like, of course, if you had school
Right?
projects, I was like, I already got encyclopedias at home. Like, I got that.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Pull the
Yep.
P for the pyramids. You knew P was
Right.
always missing first for pyramids. Yeah, it
Right.
was that was our source of information. And I salivated over those
Yeah.
National Geographic magazines just to get the visuals of what the world was like because we didn't have the internet. We only had
No.
books, right? Encyclopedias. So we only had what was at our disposal, and there wasn't the massive collection in the library, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, there was always a bunch of encyclopedias gone for, you know, topical projects, and you know, you didn't
Yeah.
have that kind of information. So it was everything was something new. Anytime you came to a place, I didn't know what it looked like beforehand because I had only if I had seen pictures, if it was really popular. If not, it wasn't. You know, if you go somewhere now on holiday, everything's planned, right? Okay, I know exactly
Yes.
what it looks like. Book my trip. Okay, book my ticket, book. This was not that. You know, I would have small bit snippets of words in my travel book that said, okay, do you want to go somewhere? And I would say, oh, sounds pretty good. And it would always be this wonderful surprise when you got there because you didn't really know what you were getting into until you got there. So
Yes.
that's kind of a different mindset. And so that's what this trip is. It's a wonderful discovery of yourself and the places and the cultures, and it's just an easy kind of fun read.
Yes, exactly. And so where do people get it?
On Amazon's the best place. It's also on Kobo and on Apple. So you can get it on both places. Two of them are out. Finding Color is the first one, and Life Strikes Back is the second one. And Hello, I'm Here is what I'm working on next, the third one.
Oh, I like that. Hello, I'm here. That's fun. I like that.
Yeah.
And where are they going to follow you?
I am on both Instagram and TikTok at Candace Macphie, and then I have a website, CandaceMcPhee.com too.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on this show. It's nice to put a face to the book that I read.
And you can be mad at me for the first book. I was mad at myself too, so that's all right. But I kind of felt that they all went together in terms of where you are mentally, right, for a toxic relationship. And until you really realize what you want, you're going to ride that for a while.
Yeah, exactly. And like, as much as I was mad at you, I can understand why it would happen. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah,
But
no, I would be mad at me too. I had so many people. You aren't the only person, Randy. Honestly, everyone I met, actually, it's this woman in my dad's building who read the book. She literally accosted me. She was like about this tall and she's 75. She's like, I can't believe you did that. I got this lecture for about half an hour.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
You would have been standing behind her going, yeah.
I totally would have been like, that's right. And yeah. Oh, that's funny. Yes. That's funny. Yeah. But I mean, look at you now. Obviously, it worked out for you in the end.
It did. It took work, but it did.
Right? That's all that matters, is it worked out for you in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So again, thank you for coming on the show. Everybody make sure that you pick up her book because I enjoyed it. And then obviously you can get the second one, and hopefully by the time you're reading, the third one's all done, and then it's all good. That's the worst, when like you're waiting for the next part of something. I hate it. Which is why I don't know if you've seen this show. It's on Paramount Plus. It's called From.
Oh, no, I haven't. But it sounds like I don't want to watch it because there's another season coming.
Well, it just came out. It just came out. Okay. You're good now. So now there's 3. I'm gonna have to
write this down because
I don't think I don't think the 3rd season is all the way out. I think they're releasing one a week. And that's where it brings me to the story. So I started watching the show because it would pop up on my Facebook and it looked really good. So I was like, okay, so I started watching it. Mm-hmm. And then you get through the first season, you get through the second season, and you're like, what? I don't want to. And now it's one a week. I'm like, I just want to wait till all of it's out and I can just binge it because that's the world we live in now. I just want all of them.
I know. Instant gratification world. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That is where we live. And you know what? I am accepting the fact that is where we live.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
So thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It was fun.
As always, thank you so much for the amazing guests that we have on the show. Be sure to check out their links down in the description below. If you want to support the channel, go ahead and check out our merch store. We've got some very cool things on there. That's my favorite. Sorry, I'm busy ending the stigma. But there's some other very cool designs. 10% of the proceeds always goes back to the Canadian Mental Health Association. Be sure to follow us on Facebook at RB Media because we have some great new shows coming up and you never want to miss any of those episodes. And remember, the only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly. Bye.